We've got Anna and Carlo. I am adding their screen share real quick. You guys are welcome to say hello to everybody while I queue up your video.
Hello.
Hi.
Alright, so share, sorry, oh, there we go. All right, and so remember, there we go. If you've got any questions during the talk, head over to this Slack channel. Anna and Carlo will be able to answer questions live as the video plays, and then if there's any other questions at the end of it, we will come back here live and go through those. And with that, I will turn all of our cams off and play the recording. So enjoy the session.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for the warm remote welcome. On Monday, you got a thorough walkthrough of the Android development history in Chet and Romain's Guy talk, and today we're going to pass through the same for Android and iOS, but from a security standpoint. But first, introductions.
Hello, my name is Karlo Levak, and I'm a former iOS developer with 7-year experience, and currently I'm a delivery unit manager in a company that does mostly security applications on mobile platforms.
And I'm Anna Baotic, a former Android developer with over 8 years experience, currently working as a project manager at the same company as Carlo. And today we will be covering the security aspects of Android and iOS through a timeline we have devised. So let's start from the beginning.
So our timeline starts at 2007 with the introduction of first iPhone and iPhone OS 1. At that point, there was basically no security whatsoever at that mobile platform.
And for Android, at this point, although the start was in 2003, we were still not live. At the end of 2007, we were in beta, but it was still very hush-hush and in progress, and hence no security whatsoever, just like on iOS.
And following a yearly development cycle and release cycle, which we have today, in 2008, iPhone OS 2 was presented with basic security functions, which were VPN, VPA2 enterprise password for wireless, and a possibility for remote enterprise wipe of your employees' iPhones.
Android at this point, 1.0 to be exact, didn't have these features because it didn't really have any market share. Subsequently, there was no vetting of software, there were no intrusions, and the platform wasn't interesting for attackers or malicious software because it wasn't really used yet.
And in 2009, we have iPhone OS 3 and our first, let's say, security feature, Find My iPhone, which enabled users to play a remote sound on their phones and see where their phone is physically at. But at that point, some basic mistakes were made in the sense of if an attacker or a thief got a hold of your phone, he can basically go into your phone and turn the feature off without any passcode or added protection, which is, we can say, a basic mistake.
On Android, we were still at the beginning. To be more precise, market share was about 3%. All the security enhancements at this point were mostly unnoticed because they were under the hood and were there to prevent stack buffer overruns, integer overflows, and similar issues. But still in the beginning.
In 2010, we have iOS 4, so the operating system was renamed from iPhone OS to iOS, and with that version, we have our first serious security feature, which is file system encryption. At that point, we have also a one let's say, fail or a bad implementation, which is basically that the encryption key is static and is held at hardware level. So if you got hold of the phone, you can get the key and you can decrypt the whole file system.
Android at this point, from 2.2 to 2.37, didn't have much focus on security still. There were some policies added with Microsoft Exchange support and secure management of multiple online accounts. Adobe Flash was added, which was probably more of an issue than a feature. And we got NFC, which was a cool feature, but it potentially led to eavesdropping, data corruption, and manipulation, and subsequently interception attacks and data theft. Under the hood, there were some fixes, but still very, very low level.
In 2011, with introduction of iOS 5, we have our first privacy-focused feature, which is Find My Friends, which enables users to see where their friends are physically located and being able to track them if their friends allow them. This is important because this was the first time that Apple took serious effort to protect people's privacy, not security, but privacy, so that you as a user decided what your friends could see and in which time and everything. So it was the first serious privacy-focused feature from Apple.
Now on Android, up to Ice Cream Sandwich, there were many, many changes, like Keychain API, facial recognition, unlock, Motorola Edge's first fingerprint scanner, and many other items like Android Beam capturing screenshots and email copy, which led to potential threats. But one notable mention would be that this wasn't really the first fingerprint. The first one was in 2004 with Fantech. Then after that with Toshiba in 2007. But Motorola Atrix was the first one that really gained traction with its feature. And regarding Face Unlock, although this was a cool feature and many people don't really know that it was added in Ice Cream Sandwich, it was badly implemented. It was a feature that was cheap to implement but expensive to use because you could have printed out your picture and used it as a face unlocking mechanism due to the front camera and 2D facial recognition algorithm. So cool feature, but more problems than it was worth.
And in 2012, with introduction of iOS 6, we have our first, let's say, a little bit more serious privacy and security feature regarding third-party applications, which mandated that third-party applications ask the user for permission to access certain parts of users' data and system, like photos, like Bluetooth chip, and so on.
Android here got a little bit more serious. Now, from Android 4.1 to 4.3, we got many very, very cool features like verifying applications, control on SMS, always on VPN, certificate pinning, which was a huge, huge improvement for security, and Android permissions were grouped into systematic categories. Many fixes for known vulnerabilities, and it was a big step for Android.
And in 2013, we got iOS 7, which was a big UX and UI redesign. And also we got a couple of big user-facing features that promoted security and privacy. So activation lock is one of those features which basically says that if you want to activate or deactivate Find My iPhone, you need to know the passcode from your phone and also your iCloud account username and password. So without those, you cannot activate or deactivate Find My iPhone, which is a basically second layer of security, which is a pretty big deal. Also, this was the year when Touch ID was introduced, and with it came a secure enclave, which basically is a trusted execution environment for all the cryptographic functions and key storing.
As for Android, we got verified boot, several performance improvements, but also we had hijacking devices, smart locking paired by Bluetooth. Basically, your devices would be left unlocked if they were paired with something they trusted, and it left many holes. But let's take one step back to the iOS juice jacking issue.
So juice jacking is basically an attack where you plug your phone into any outlet at, let's say, an airport, and a malicious attacker can implant a malicious code that will go to your phone and start via the power cable. So it allowed the attackers to go and, let's say, infect your phones with a simple charger that is publicly available at any airport or coffee shop. And let's dig a little bit deeper into Touch ID because it's a pretty big milestone for iOS, but it also had its own, let's say, scandals and fails. During the first 24 hours after introduction of Touch ID, a hacker group managed to fake a fingerprint lifted from a smudge on an iPhone and recreate it with wood glue, and they unlocked the phone successfully with that phony fingerprint. It basically showed that the sensor is okay for the user operation, but its DPI, its resolution, is a little bit too low at that point for some serious security. The same hacker group managed a year later to recreate a fingerprint from high-resolution photos of a German defense minister, and they managed to unlock her phone with the phony fingerprint lifted from those high-resolution photos. This basically gave an Android and iOS awareness of importance of hardware that is used with the software for security that they are developing. And that brings us to 2014 and iOS 8, which basically did a large security improvement when they used a passcode to generate a dynamic encryption key used for encrypting the file system and also some other parts of bootloader and system of iOS.
And on Android 5, we got the full factory reset remote one for our users, but also we had accessibility clickjacking introduced. This is an attack that basically allows your malicious code or user to overlay something in the graphical interface and mimic some kind of action from you. So when you press a button, you're actually letting that interaction fall through below the user interface, and it might grant some kind of permission or escalate permissions through the app, and you could basically get yourself very, very exposed to whoever is attacking you. This was applicable to all the versions before 5.0, but later on it was reintroduced in the late 2010s.
And let's go a step back to iOS passcode. As we said, this was the first time it was used for dynamically generating encryption keys, and also a small detail with the animation if you enter the wrong passcode. So the animation is a nice touch for the user interface, but is also used in a security manner so that it slows down a possible attempt of brute force attack on the passcode. And that brings us to 2015 and iOS 9, which basically introduced a mandatory 6-digit passcode, and it was the first sign of app transport security or a set of Apple's rules for the network traffic for third-party applications, which basically was an indication of that the Apple will forbid clear text traffic for third-party applications in the coming years.
As for Android 6 or Marshmallow, we got a whole lot of cool features. For instance, hardware-backed keys and the security bulletin. One notable mention here is that the same bulletin was later used to predict and plan attacks on Android based on when things would get fixed. But also there was an issue with 80% of quad chips being exposed to some kind of attack called the quad router. And also, many people remember the stage fright vulnerability. Basically, the playback library used in Android was allowing arbitrary attackers to escalate privileges and run code on the device. And it exposed one fundamental flaw in Android, or the ecosystem, to be more precise, and that it is completely and fully fragmented.
Which brings us to 2016 and iOS 10, which we have a funny anecdote, or maybe not so funny for Apple, in which they gave an intern to develop some code for the passcode screen and passcode usage in iOS. And the intern lowered the number of hash iterations used for passcode derivation of encryption key from 200 to 1, which basically opened Apple to a pretty quick and simple brute force attack. This was later increased to 200 back with a quick fix, and to a bigger number after some analysis and performance improvements that they done on the iOS. And this was also the first year in which Apple said that third-party applications need to use TLS 1.2 as mandatory for their network traffic, and basically said no more clear traffic in the third-party applications. Clear text traffic, sorry.
Android and brought some cool network features as well, most notably network security config, which you could use to add certificate pinning and particular pins that your application would use. It also had direct boot, but also not all vulnerabilities are in terms of security on your device. Some of them are your device. I'm sure most of you remember the scandal with Galaxy Note 7, where devices would spontaneously explode or combust everywhere. So there were
have a lot of fire extinguishers at airports today, which basically
correct.
says if Samsung is near, use this.
Yes, some devices are simply on fire. One of them was Samsung Galaxy Note 7. So keep in mind that it's not just your security within the OS.
Yes, and that brings us to 2017 and iOS 11, which basically introduced Face ID, the most popular way to unlock your phone today.
A little too late, but you have to get to it at some point. Android 8 brought safe browsing, and also Google ramped up a little with their Google Play Security Report program and Android Security Report program, where you would be able to report any kind of bugs or vector attacks to Google and maybe earn some money, but also help protect the platform itself.
And let's get back to that funny remark that we are a little bit too late. But Apple, when he does something, he does it right. But let's be honest. So the Face ID was implemented in a way that it used infrared projector and infrared camera to project 30,000 red dots to map your face, and they used a normal camera to do a pixel-based picture of your face, and it was all used in conjunction to unlock your phone. But let's be fair, Android was not behind as an operating system. Rather, the hardware vendors like Samsung and Huawei were behind because they didn't incorporate the right hardware to enable this functionality. And that brings us to 2018, where basically iOS 12 did a lot of security fixing under the hood because iOS 11 had a lot of security issues and reports, and the only notable user-facing security feature is password manager that can be used on an operating system level to manage your passwords for all your applications.
Android spent some time in their biometric realm. They devised the biometric prompt. They had some work done on the Strongbox Keymaster, which is a hardware security module in the background, and also clear text was forbidden. So, moving onward.
Yeah, in 2019, iOS 13 was introduced, and the only, let's say, notable introduction was sign in with Apple, which protects user privacy in a way that it allows us to sign into third-party services, but not giving those services our personal data. Apple takes care of everything, and we get all the benefits of single sign-on system.
As for Android, the focus was mostly on privacy, but also TLS 1.3 was set as the default. Now, let's go a step back to the fingerprint scanner. It was introduced with Ice Cream Sandwich, and iOS discovered it years later. And basically, although at this point, both Android and iOS do have it, the approach differs greatly. One part is the hardware, and the other part is the philosophy of the platform. For Android, you might have more freedom because you're not kind of locked to the home button. It's placed either in the back or in the front. It can be detached completely. So you have more freedom in terms of user experience, but also it kind of gives way to the standardized approach where those vendors can kind of modify the user experience, and it may not be as safe as it was on iOS. So more freedom and more problems. One bigger controversy was with, again, Samsung, when in 2019 you were able to unlock your phone, a flagship model, with a clear silicone case for the phone. So the idea was right, but the implementation could have been better.
Yeah, in all fairness, again, it's not an operating system's fault, it's not an Android's fault, but the hardware vendor is, let's say, a little bit more careless, and that results in what Anna said. And that brings us to this year or 2020, where iOS 14 had two notable security and privacy features. One is camera, microphone, and indicator, which indicates with a green or an orange dot that your camera or microphone are in use, and maybe some third-party application is recording you. And they also implemented something that's called hard to disconnect, which basically, when you put the lid down on your iPad or MacBook, it disconnects your microphone and camera at a hardware level.
As for Android, we continue with privacy updates and biometric updates, which are always very welcome. And regarding the future, well, at least the pandemic will hopefully end, but what security brings next year, we will gladly explore together.
And going to the sensitive topic of controversies, we would like to mention one, which is basically a San Bernardino incident in 2016, which brought the issue of privacy and security in the eyes of the world in a way that FBI had in its possession an iPhone 5C, which they wished to be unlocked, but Apple declined to use their means and engineers to help them, and they said they don't have any backdoor, which was then a common, let's say, story that was going around the world, that each big company has a backdoor. They didn't have it, and they said publicly that they don't want to do it. All the big companies like Google, Facebook, Amazon stood with them and said this is not the way they want to treat their users. They want to show respect to the user's privacy and security.
One approach we would like to mention here, and I think that it would be very good if we were all aware of it, is that security privacy always comes with a price, and it's probably a very, very serious topic to address if you need to check whether one person's privacy is more important than the security of many, many other users. But again, it's a topic to discuss offline or think about. Just don't take security for granted. And finally, our mission statement for the day is that it is safe until it's not safe anymore, as with all the other things.
Yeah, and today we just learned our usual funny and easygoing selves, because this whole pandemic thing and separation is getting even to us. Thank you.
Thank you. We will be available on Slack for questions.
Awesome. Thank you both. Move that. There we go. All right. I can now confirm, of course, that Anna and Karlo are not bots, which is important. Let's see. Someone is typing, so we will give. Oh, Richard, there's some applause in the Slack channel. So remember, if you have any questions, just hop into the Slack at any time. Anna and Karlo are around to answer questions that you may have. And with that, we will be back at, I believe, 1 p.m. Mountain Time, UTC -6. And so take care of, top off your coffee cups, your sodas, your wine, depending on your time zone. And thank you, Anna and Karlo. Is there anything you want to say before we sign off?
Thank you everybody for listening.
Yeah, we usually interrupt each other, and unfortunately we weren't allowed to do so this time. We're not in the same city. Otherwise, it's a very, competitive presentation mode. So you get the vanilla version this time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much. Everyone, enjoy the rest of the day. Enjoy the break. Make sure to do some networking, meet new people, see the expo area, and thank our sponsors for supporting us. And we will be back in a bit. Thank you.